It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. Hey everybody, how are you guys doing this evening? Hopefully you guys are doing well. For the new people, welcome to the HVACR videos Q&A live stream. All right, I do these live streams on Monday evenings to just kind of consolidate some of the questions that I get from emails, YouTube comments, Facebook comments, all that different stuff. I get a bunch of them, and so it's just easier to go live and come on here and talk about them. So usually do these every week, covering the 2 videos that I did since the last live stream. Okay. As usual, guys, I want to cover your guys' questions in the chat too. So do me a favor and put your questions in caps lock if you guys have any. And I'll try to get to those too. If I don't get to your guys' stuff, sometimes it happens. I think someone a few minutes ago was saying that I've missed their question 4 times. Try to send it to me in an email format if I don't get to it. Sometimes a lot of stuff goes on in here, and I'm not scouring the chat. I'm, usually go off on a rant or stare at the camera or all that stuff. So feel free, if I miss your guys' questions, to send me an email at hvacrvideos@gmail.com, and I will try to get to it and go from there. All right. So as we come up to Christmas, December 25th is coming up here really quick for those that celebrate it. Merry Christmas. For those that don't, happy holidays or whatever you celebrate. Hopefully you guys have a great holiday, okay? My family is ready. It's kind of a, as you guys are going through it too, it's definitely an interesting year, so let's hope. I'm not going to give too many hints, but let's hope that just for one day, when my video releases on Thursday, let's hope that I can make just a couple people really happy for that one day, okay? As I've been kind of teasing a little bit more, and I'll have an even bigger teaser video popping out probably on Instagram and Facebook this week. I have a very special video coming up on Thursday, Christmas Eve, okay? It's not going to be a traditional repair video. It's going to be something really, really cool. That I am super excited. It's been a blast. I just randomly thought of this, and it just turned into a thing, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And it's going to be really cool, guys. So definitely make sure you guys check out the video that's going to post on Christmas Eve or December 24th, this Thursday. It is going to post first thing in the morning. It's going to post, usually I post my videos midday on Thursdays, but being that it's Christmas Eve, I'm going to go ahead and post the video at 5 a.m. West Coast time, 8 a.m. East Coast time. So it'll post early, and you guys will have a chance to see it. And yeah, that's kind of... man, I really want to spill the beans on it, but I've been trying to bite my tongue so bad and not ruin the surprise. So it's going to be really, really cool, though, guys. All right. So as usual, a couple things I want to cover, and like I said, I want to get to the chat here too. So let me see what I'm missing inside here. Let me see. I see there's a few guesses in the chat as to what I might be doing. Some might be right, some might be wrong. It's hard to say. All right. I am moderator-less. Nah, I'm good. We're good in here. Let me see what else we got in here. Walk-in cooler, not temping. I'm seeing everything in here. Yeah, I definitely have a surprise package in the back right here. Someone sent me a surprise package. I'm not supposed to know who it's from. I think I have an idea who it's from, but I don't really know a whole lot about it. My wife received the package, and she's been holding off on it. They wanted to see me open it on camera. I have no idea. For all I know, it's going to be one of those damn glitter bombs that explodes all over my office. On a side note, I don't know about you guys, but I've been watching some cool YouTube videos of people sabotaging packages and putting glitter bombs and different things in them for the thieves that when they steal it. I love those videos. Those are awesome. So, yeah, let's get this over with real quick. I'm going to go ahead and open up this package that was sent to me. Okay, so there's a note in the package that says, congrats on 100,000 subscribers. We want to give you something better than a play button. Ike designed the cut and worked on the details, and Rich worked on the minor edits to make sure the cut came out just right so it would be perfect. So this is Ike and Rich are in the chat right now. So Rich fabricated and added other aspects to the project to make it pop. We hope you enjoy your gift and appreciate to say thanks for your work and your videos. Keep up the good work, and once again, thanks, or congrats. So this is a congratulations. A little premature, but we'll get there soon. I think within the next month or so, we're going to get there. I'm just about to hit 100,000 subscribers on my channel. So let's go ahead and open it up. So check this out. It's a really cool sign. Now it has laser paper on it. If you guys don't know what that is, it's so that the machine that cuts the stainless steel can cut it clean without burn marks and slag and different things like that. So I'll pull the laser paper off and we'll display it in the office in the back. But HVACR videos, big picture diagnosis, 100K subscribers. That's really cool, guys. And it has my snowflake icon on it right there. Thank you guys so very much. I'll work on pulling the laser paper off this, but this is a really cool gift. I didn't even know this was coming, so this is really neat. Thank you guys very much, okay? All right. So I'm not going to pull the laser paper off right now, but I'm sure you guys will see it on my next live stream or something, because laser paper can take a little while to pull off if you guys haven't already. Even though this has been sitting in my office, there's nothing worse than installing a reach-in cooler that has laser paper on it that has been on there out in the cold, and then you try to pull it off and it's like a nightmare. Luckily, this has been in my house for a while, so it's nice and warm, but super, super nice, guys. That's really cool. Thank you guys very much. Now, there's another paper right here, too. Oh, gotcha. Okay. So I'm assuming that we're supposed to order the, I see this right here. My wife didn't open this up, but there's a note on here that says to order this from Amazon. It's like a light for the back of it, so we'll definitely look into that too. So right on. This is really cool, guys. Thank you very much. That was really neat. Very, very cool. All right. So again, that's really cool, guys. Thanks so much. All right, so let me see what else. Yeah, definitely put an LED behind it for sure. It's not made out of sheet metal. It's made out of stainless steel. Gosh, you know what? If my family knew how to pull laser paper, I'd pull it right now, but it's not really something I want to do on the live stream. It'll take me a little while. But I'll definitely post a picture on social media and tag you guys, and you'll be able to see it. Yeah, it's going to take me too long to do this right now. But anyways, all right, we're going to set that back there. Again, thank you guys so very much. So those that are just tuning in, this was sent to me by Ike and Rich. It's stainless steel. It has laser paper on it right now, but it's a 100K subscriber plaque right here. So I'm just about to hit 100,000 subscribers. So that's so cool, guys. Thank you so very much. That's going to look bitchin' once I get the paper pulled off of it. All right, so let's see what we got going on. What else we got? Yeah, it is. So when it does come off easy, it is very nice. Sometimes you can take a heat gun. There's a couple different methods you could do. So, all right, that was really, really cool, guys. Very, very cool. Not, you know, that I'm blown away. That's really neat. So I have been trying, and I go back and forth right now, but I've been trying to drink tea more on the live streams because, man, I don't know about you guys, but I've been drinking way too much when it comes to this whole being stuck at home all the time, man. It seems like every night I'm drinking and trying not to. So, all right, let me see. 100 likes for laser paper peeling live stream. Whew, maybe towards the end. We're not going to do it right now. Okay, so definitely want to get to your guys' questions. Make sure you put them in caps lock. So something I wanted to cover, I was talking with a service technician of mine today, and I thought this was a great topic to kind of start off on the live stream, okay? Ryan, I'll get to your question here. Let me read it real quick before I get too crazy. So with cheaper POS systems like Autosa, and Avantco replacing quality systems, do I fear that the low temp repair industry could fall like the appliance, cheaper to replace them? Okay, so I'm going to cover that real quick before I get into my rant topic. So Ryan, so basically he's asking, do I think that the cheap refrigerators are bringing down the rest of the industry? And yes, I do. Okay, so let me put it this way. In the mid 90s to the early 2000s, True Manufacturing was the cheapest refrigerator out there, okay? Their quality was subpar. It was a pain in the butt to work on them. They have stepped up their quality tenfold, but, okay, I blame, in a way, True Refrigeration for bringing down the market because the cheap Korean brands and different things like that weren't coming into the market yet, okay? So you had True Refrigeration, which, again, they're much better than they were, but they were cheap for a while, and they brought down the market. The major competitors like Tralson at the time, Beverage Air, Tralson was the big one, okay? But in order to keep up, this is my opinion also, guys, okay? But in order to keep up with True Manufacturing, Beverage Air, Tralson, all those guys had to or not Perlick, Beverage Air, Tralson. There's another one I can't think of right now too. But anyways, they had to bring their quality down because they had to keep up with the pricing, right? Because True was just killing the market with all their refrigerators. Now, I would imagine that True had some problems because their quality has been increased 10 times. I mean, it's amazing how nice their regions are now, but for a while they were really, really cheap, okay? So with the new refrigerators, the really cheap Korean brands and different things like that, for sure, they're bringing down the market and everybody's having to compete. They're having to cut corners. True Manufacturing still manufactures in the United States. I'll give them something really good for that. So they manufacture their product in the United States, but I got to say, it's got to be harder and harder for them to manufacture their product in the United States these days when you have all these low-cost budget refrigerators out there. And, you know, I have restaurants that don't want to spend any money these days, okay? They essentially just, you know, you tell them that their reach-in has got this problem, and they say, okay, we'll just replace the whole thing. And we dump refrigerators that are 7 years old in the trash. Buy a new one. Use it for 5 to 7 years, dump it in the trash. That's just the cycle right now, okay? So it's really sad that we're not able to repair these refrigerators anymore. Now, as a contractor, what makes it even harder for me is that all these refrigerators are coming with 3-year parts and labor warranties, okay? So the customer's getting rid of them at the 5 to 7 year mark, usually near the 5-year mark, okay? And I can't sell them anything on the refrigerator. So it comes with a 3-year parts and labor with a 5-year compressor warranty. So if the compressor fails within 5 years, In the first 3 years, they'll pay for the labor, and the last 2, they pay for just the part. But it makes it hard because as a contractor, I have to go out and just do warranty work, right? So that's just a struggle, but I can go off on a tangent about that one for days. So I definitely think that these low-cost Korean manufactured piece of junk refrigerators out there, Atosa and whatever these other ones are, yeah, they're dragging down the industry because everybody else has to lower their prices and lower their quality to keep up with those guys. Of course, you're always going to have a high-end refrigerator out there, but they're not going to survive as well. Charleston, in my opinion, used to be one of the best manufactured refrigerators out there. They used to have, when their refrigerators were manufactured in California, they were real stainless steel. They were in the 80s. They were I rebuilt many of those Charlestons from the 80s. They were so high quality, right? And then even in the early 2000s, they had a very high quality with their G series stand-up freezers. They were really, really well built, right? But now that same freezer has just gone down in quality big time, okay? And I blame it on all the cheap manufacturers and them having to keep up with them just to stay in business. So that's just my opinion. There may not be a lot of fact behind that, but that's how I feel about that one. So let me see. Do you proceed? Do you need to watch the video when it posts, or does it matter when you watch it? Christmas Eve video. It does not matter when you watch it. You can watch it New Year's Eve. It's not going to make a difference. Okay. That's all that I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything else, but it's not like you need to watch it and do anything. Once you watch it, it'll totally make sense what has happened, but you do not need to watch it early. It's not a race. It's not a contest or anything like that. You just need to watch the video to see what had happened. So no need to watch it first thing. You don't need to stop the presses or anything like that. You can get to it when you can get to it. Throughout the weekend, you'll see it, and it'll totally make sense to everybody, okay? All right. Let me see what we got going on here. I already answered that one. Okay, I'm going to get to my topic that I wanted to cover. So I was talking with one of my service technicians today about situational awareness, okay? So he called me, and he went to a walk-in cooler service call. Let me explain this, and I'm going to explain my logic and where he went, and then you guys can kind of see where I was kind of guiding him to, okay? So we got a service call from the customer. They said that their walk-in cooler, it came in yesterday. They sent in a work request through an email, and it said, hey, our walk-in cooler has been in the mid-40s for the last couple days. Can you send someone out on Monday to check it out? Okay. So my service technician goes out there today and talks to the manager, and the manager told him the same thing. It's just kind of been up in the 40s. And he went onto the roof, and he noticed 2 things. Number 1, before he did anything, the condenser fan motor was not running. And number 2, or no, I take that back. He had shut the unit off when he first went on the roof, okay? Then when he turned it on, he noticed that the condenser fan motor was not working, and he noticed that the sight glass was flashing. So he called me and he said, hey, I put some gas in the unit, cleared up the sight glass. It wasn't iced up or anything like that. He was fine with that, cleared up the glass. But he said the condenser fan motor wasn't working. And then he said he didn't put service gauges on it or anything like that. And he said he spun the blade, and boom, it started running, and it's running fine right now, okay? So then he said, I think we got a condenser fan motor going out. And then we were kind of talking about where he could get the motor from. So then my questions started popping up. And I said, okay, so listening to what the customer told me, they said that the walk-in cooler had been temping high the last couple of days. Then we walked up and we found a bad condenser fan motor. Okay, so what I had asked my tech was, are you sure that the condenser fan motor is bad? And he said, yes, it had voltage. And I go, okay. But before it was running, he walked up and he spun the blade, and then it started working. I go, are you sure that the fan cycle control did not turn on at the exact moment that you spun the blade? And he said, well, I don't know. And I said, okay, I know it's a weird coincidence, but what are the odds that you spun it right at the certain time that the fans, because this one does have a fan cycle control, that the fan cycle control turned on at the exact same moment that you spun the blade? And he's like, well, I don't know. How do I check that? And I was like, well, you got to put your gauges on it. You got to watch the system operate, check it, cut in and cut out. But the point that I'm trying to make, and the point that I brought up to him, and he understood it when I said it, I said, before you start pushing, before you start pulling, before you start twisting, turning, spinning, or anything like that, you need to do your best to look at the situation. Think about what the customer said. I said, in this situation, what my tech told me was they had a bad condenser fan motor. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'm sure it's bad, but I said, I don't know that that's the only problem, because the customer said that it was only maintaining higher 40s, but it wasn't at 80 degrees, right? If we had a failed condenser fan motor and that was the main problem, the whole system would be down. It would be shut off, right, on high pressure. okay? Yeah, it has an auto reset pressure control, but it would still be really high in temp, not just in the 40s, okay? So that's what I was trying to get across to him, and he understood. He's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So long story short, we ended up having a condenser fan motor that was going bad. The run cap on it was failing, okay? So it may have been turning on and off, I don't know. But the whole conversation we were having was just the situational awareness. You got to think about the service call. If the condenser fan motor was the only problem, right? The temperature would be a lot higher than just barely in the 40s. You know, the customer would have called on an emergency service call. Now, the one thing I glossed over in the beginning was he said it was low on charge too. He had to put 2 pounds of gas in it to clear the sight glass. There was no head pressure control valve or anything like that. So we need to go back and try to find a refrigerant leak too. The refrigerant, the low charge could have had something to do with it too. But you can't just assume that when you walk up, boom, that's your problem. Okay, you have to look at the big picture. You have to ask questions. You have to know the right questions to ask the customer so that way you can think about it. And you have to listen to what the customer says too. When the customer says, yeah, it's been, kind of maintaining a little bit in the high, right in the 40s, a little bit high, but not enough for us to call you on an emergency. When you get there, you can't just assume that this condenser fan motor issue is the only thing, because maybe there's more going on. Okay. That's all. I just kind of want to cover that because that's something I've been running into a little bit more is people not necessarily thinking about everything, calling me and saying, hey, we got a temperature controller that's failed. Why? What's wrong with it? What's it doing? Those are the questions that I ask. And sometimes people get upset with me when I quiz them. Like, why do you think the temperature controller is bad? Well, because it's not maintaining the right temperatures in the box. Okay. What type of temperature controller is it? Well, I don't know. See, you got to look into it. If it's a reach-in cooler and it's a coil sensing temperature controller, you got to stop and think, what makes that temperature controller turn on and off? And it's very common for people to misdiagnose a failed temperature controller on a coil sensing setup. Okay, so it has an evaporator coil. The temperature controller's capillary tube goes into the evaporator coil. It's usually a constant cut-in control. If you have low charge on a system that has a coil sensing temperature controller, that can make you think that you have a bad temp control, right? So those are things you have to think about. You can't just diagnose without going through everything. The one thing I ask my guys all the time, okay, once you've gone past the it's not working, it's not getting cold enough, did you put your service gauges on it? Did you put both sides on there? There's nothing more that sends me through the roof than someone telling me, yeah, the low side's at this. Well, what's your high side pressure? I don't know. There's no tap, or I didn't put it on there. You can't tell me anything with just a low side pressure probe or with just a high side pressure probe. We need to know the entire system. Minimum high side, low side, then we know what our evaporator temp, what our condensing temp is, okay? We've been, really having to quiz a lot of people and, just say, hey, you know what? Why do you think it failed? Explain to me your logic. What kind of troubleshooting steps did you go through? And then I quiz, and then we talk and have a conversation in hopes that someone's going to learn, and look at the big picture next time. Okay. So I am not a person that likes to go in and just, it's got a bad temp control because it's not getting cold enough. No, because here's how that situation works. We order the temperature controller. It takes 2 days to get it. We get it here. We go back to the job site. We put in the temp control. It still doesn't work. Oh man, you know what? It has a leak in evaporator coil. 4 days later, we order an evaporator, a cap tube, and a dryer, and we fix the problem. But I don't like to do that, okay? We go in and we diagnose and figure everything out. Another thing that a lot of people don't realize, and even I don't do this because most of the time I can kind of work my way through it. True Manufacturing, which is a very common, one of the biggest global refrigerators out there, right? Or probably the biggest in the US manufacturer, they actually have a method of diagnosing a failed coil sensing temperature controller by disconnecting the evaporator fan motor, putting a thermometer inside the evaporator coil, and watching what temperature it turns on and off at. Did you know that you got to go to True Manufacturing's website and actually download a service manual that explains in detail how to diagnose a failed temperature controller? It's actually a trip. It's really easy to do. And in fact, I'm actually going to show you right now because I was blown away when I found this. So we're going to go ahead and do a screen share real quick. Let's see if I can do this without sharing any sensitive information. I think I can do this. Yeah, there's nothing bad on there. I'm going to transition over real quick. So we're going to go to True Manufacturing, RUMFG.com. Nope, that's not it. TRUEMFG.com. There you go. Commercial refrigerators. We're going to go to support. We're going to go to resource library. We're going to go to technical service manuals. And look at right here, guys. Technical service manuals. Table of contents. How to change doors and gaskets. You wouldn't think you need that, but you actually do. And then look down here. Refrigeration temperature controller. Temperature controller replacement, repair. Look at this. You go in here. It downloads a PDF. And it tells you exactly what the part numbers are, what the cut in and cut out is. And then if you go down here, look at this. You take out the fan motor, take off the fan blade, disconnect it, or actually you can leave the evaporator fan motor running, just take off the blade, put your thermometer inside of it, and it tells you how to diagnose a failed temperature controller. It tells you all the different steps, guys. There's so much more. All you guys have to do is ask the Google. The Google will give you so much information that you don't even know that you want. Google has so much information on there, guys. True Manufacturing. Most of the manufacturers have great resources online. And that's all you need to do is go to their website and look around, and you could find all kinds of cool stuff. You're working on a Fullet ice machine, go to Fullet's website, download the information. There's so much information out there, guys. You just need to look for it and know how to ask the Google. And usually the Google can answer. Okay. There's lots of great resources on how to investigate and look into things. You guys definitely just go and look. That's all you need to do. Okay. When you're bored, just search something on your phone. Go on YouTube. You know, there's a million different videos on how to diagnose a failed temperature controller, but all you need to do is you can watch one and you say, you know what, this guy doesn't quite know what he sounds or knows what he's talking about, you know, so move on to the next one. There's so much information out there for everybody, okay? So situational awareness goes a long way. I don't know if that's the right way to describe that, but listening, looking, feeling. Don't start twisting and pulling and resetting and different things. You know, when I walk up, I don't like to just hit high pressure controls. I like to look at everything first. Spin the fan motor, check this, check that. I don't just reset breakers. I try to test for direct shorts to ground before. You know, you really try to unravel something, because there's nothing worse than going in and fixing a problem without realizing that you fixed it. Or, you know what I'm saying? There's some ice machine manufacturers, Hoshizaki for one, okay? Hoshizaki ice machines have a digital circuit board that has a safety limit on it that starts beeping when there's a problem. And you have to listen to how many times that safety limit beeps. Usually 3 or 4 times, somewhere in there, 2 times, whatever it is, 1 time. Each one does something different. But if you get up in there and you reset that safety, there's no history of that safety anymore. It's gone. Okay? So once the customer has learned how to reset a safety on a Hoshizaki machine, be ready to spend a lot of time trying to find problems, because half the time people say, oh, it was beeping. Well, how many times was it beeping? Oh, I don't know, like 9 times. There is no 9 beep safety limit. Okay? Before you go up and push things, listen, think, write it down. I love having a notepad in front of me and writing down technical support issues, you know, or this is how many times it was beeping. This is what's going on, the flash codes, different things like that, because I'm super forgetful. I try to do that, and I double, triple check myself. If it starts beeping 3 times, I listen again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Some manufacturers, such as York, if you're working on a York package unit, right, on the roof, and it has a LED board on it, it'll start flashing at you, but it flashes on one set of LEDs, and then it flashes on another set, and they're different codes that equal different things. So you have to pay attention and understand how things work before you really start jumping into them. Be cautious about resetting things. Carrier package units, the older ones, you don't go up and turn the power off and turn it back on, because you just reset all the safeties, and now you got to wait and try to see it do whatever it was going to do again, okay? You got to investigate before you reset things. All right, off on that rant right now. Let me see what else we got in here. Dyna, whatever. Go over restrictions in my system and what do you do to get them out? Well, what do you mean by restrictions in the system? Okay, I'm going to assume, let's just talk about a refrigerator right now that has a restriction in it, okay? We're talking about a refrigeration restriction in a capillary tube system on a true, let's just say a true stand-up bottle cooler that has R134A refrigerant, okay? First off, what you need to understand, why is it that we have plugged up capillary tubes on reach-in refrigerators so much that have 134A in them. Okay. Usually it's not a cheap manufacturer, guys. Okay. I did this too. For the longest time, I used to work on a lot of Hvacr units that had 134A cap tubes, and we were plugging up cap tubes all the time, changing cap tubes. And in the beginning, I would just change the cap tube, the dryer, and move on. And then, a couple months later, it'd plug up again. It's like, oh man, you change it again and again and again. And then you start to realize, okay, there's a variable here that I'm not seeing. Okay. Why do the capillary tubes plug up? Majority of the time, capillary tubes plug up because the customer's not properly maintaining their equipment, okay? If they're not maintaining their equipment properly, what happens? The condensers get plugged up with grease and dirt. The system starts to overheat with polyester oil and 134A. There's some kind of a weird-ass thing that goes on inside there. And what actually starts to happen is the oil starts to cook, okay? The easiest way I could explain it, this isn't the what really happens, but think of bacon grease when it cools. Okay. Same thing happens. It's something like that. The oil inside the system just gets so hot that it starts to create grime and crap. And remember, POE oil is great at being a solvent, right? As it goes through the system, it does a really good job of cleaning everything off. So imagine too that the manufacturer maybe didn't, follow all proper procedures from the beginning, but then on top of that, the oil's getting cooked and it starts running through the system, getting plugged up in the capillary tube, and it plugs them up. So with that being said, when I go in there and change the capillary tubes on it in the dryer, and then a couple months later, I have to change it again, and then a couple months later, you have to change it again, we need to stop and think, what's the best method here? The best way, if you have a plugged up capillary tube and it's a 134A system, do you want to know what it is? Change out the entire condensing unit. That's the best method you can do. Flush the system. More than likely, it's going to have an accumulator on it. Take that accumulator out and replace it. Okay, you can try flushing it, but on something so small, it's a pain in the butt. Did you guys know, true manufacturing, if you have a plugged up capillary tube, if you have a failed compressor, did you know that true manufacturing will give you an entire condensing unit? Because they have realized, at least they used to, call them and ask them. Next time you have a plugged up cap tube, tell them, you know what? I got a plugged up cap tube. I believe this oil's contaminated. Can you send me out a new condensing unit? Most of the time, at least when I used to do them a lot, they'll send you a whole condensing unit because they realize that's the only way to eliminate that. I'm assuming while it's under warranty, okay? Obviously, you got to call them and ask them about that. But seriously, if you have a failed compressor on a true refrigerator and you call them and say, and it's under warranty, you can get an entire condensing unit instead of just the compressor. They'll send you the whole unit, right? I got to give True props for that one. They do a great job with that. But they realize that you're better off changing the whole condensing unit if you have a plugged up cap tube. Now, they're not going to keep doing that, especially if the customer's not maintaining the equipment, right? But that's what goes on. So how do we diagnose a restriction on a capillary tube system like a 134A system? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to put your service gauges on there. You're going to look at the way the unit's operating. You're going to look at your evaporator temperature. You can look at your subcooling, but I'm going to tell you right now, true manufacturing, none of the major manufacturers publish subcooling or superheat data for any of their reach-ins, okay? They're going to just basically tell you these are the operating pressures of what it should be. That's how they operate. And so if it's not within those parameters, they basically tell you that you're going to have a restriction or something going on inside there. You can, of course, kind of do your own math, superheat and subcooling, but the hard thing when it comes to these reach-ins that you don't understand as far as looking at system vitals like superheat and subcooling on the reach-in coolers is that they often will have like a hot gas condensate heater, okay? So some of these manufacturers will have the discharge line coming out of the compressor. It'll go into a drain pan for the evaporator because they're completely self-contained units. This typically isn't on True, but like on Charleston does this. They have a refrigeration line that goes through the hot gas condensate pan first, and then it goes to the condenser, okay? When that happens, it gets really confusing on how to use superheat and subcooling because are you meant to check the superheat and subcooling numbers when there's water in the pan or when it's dry? Okay, because that's going to affect everything. Another thing that you have to understand too, a lot of these manufacturers that have capillary tubes, in order to get the best efficiency out of the system, they'll take the capillary tube and they'll wrap it around the suction line and solder it on there and then go to the evaporator coil, okay? So when you go to replace that, you have just taken away the efficiency. And what number were you supposed to use for subcooling or superheat for that matter, when the capillary tube was running around the suction line, getting subcooled essentially. Okay, it throws everything off. So when it comes to these reach-in coolers, superheat and subcooling is not going to get you very far, other than to tell you like, hey, I've got no subcooling, or hey, I've got massively high subcooling. Or I've got extremely low superheat. But as far as dialing in a normally operating system, it's going to be hard to use those numbers. So you're just going to have to, from experience, look at the system pressures, watch it operate. You know, it just takes time to get used to them. So that isn't a great way to diagnose those reach-ins, but that's basically the methods that are out there. So hopefully that answers. I don't even know if that was part of your question, but hopefully that answers a little bit there. Let me see. Merry Christmas to everybody that's in here. Thank you guys. Was there any rack or package units in my area that had one compressor replaced multiple times in the past? I don't know, but the only guys. Let me see what else we got in here. Dallas fan. Ralph's in here, guys. My buddy Ralph. Hey, for those that just came in, I had opened this earlier. So I haven't pulled the laser paper off yet, but this is a stainless steel plaque that Rich and Ike sent to me. They're in the chat right now as an early congratulations for 100,000 subscribers. Now, I'm not quite there yet. I'm like 2,000, 2,500, something like that, shy of the 100,000 subscribers. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to start pulling this paper off. Maybe I'll do a little bit while we're doing this, and then we'll put it up in the back of the office somewhere. But it's a really cool, this is a stainless steel plaque, basically. You guys can see the metal color right there. So it'll look super awesome when I get it all pulled off. So thanks again, guys. That was really cool. All right, let me see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? Not missing anything. Okay, cool. Let me look at the chat and see if I'm missing anything in there real quick. Okay, so CP Boy 100 is asking if a new technician could go straight into working on large commercial building systems, or would I recommend them start on small residential first? You know, I said something the other day. I think I might have been on the Overtime show, and I've been thinking about that after. No, a technician can certainly go into the commercial side first. I had mentioned something like, hey, start on the residential side, or I said that somewhere, and I didn't mean that for everybody. It was answering the certain specific person's question. I don't remember where it was, but yes, a tech certainly could go directly into the commercial side if he has a company that's willing to train him. Now, I will warn you right now, all of you guys, especially if you're going into school, you're in school, or you just graduated school, there is not a single school out there that is going to give you everything you need to be a full-fledged technician when you get out of school. You have to go through an apprenticeship of some sort, okay? So understand that. Don't let any of those, especially the for-profit schools, mislead you into thinking that you are going to be a full-fledged service tech when you get out of school. It's kind of funny because I get resumes quite often, and you can tell that they were the resumes were written by the school, because when technicians that are out of school, they'll send me a resume, and on the resume it says, you can read like, hey, they just got out of school, but it says that they have experience diagnosing this, they have experience diagnosing that, they have experience brazing, they know how to do this, they have experience. And it's like, they don't have experience. They took an 18-week or 15, whatever. They took no more than 6-month class where they had a little bit of experience wiring and brazing and different things. Don't listen to a trade school that tells you to put the experience that you had in that trade school as working experience. In what I mean by, you don't have experience in brazing if you were just doing it in trade school, okay? And there's nothing wrong with saying you were in trade school. We as business owners understand. Now, it's okay to say things that you covered in trade school, but I find it silly when I get a resume that says I'm proficient in doing this. No, they're not. They have a limited amount of training while they were in trade school doing that stuff, but they are not experienced technicians coming out, okay? So again, nothing against people coming out of trade school. I understand what the experience you're going to have coming out of trade school, but don't let a trade school fool you into thinking that you're going straight in as a service technician. That's BS, okay? And if they're trying to do that and a company lets you do that, then you're being set up for failure, okay? Everybody knows that someone out of trade school is still going to have to shadow someone and work with someone and learn properly, okay? Be very, very cautious. I mean, There might be a very small percentage of people that are proficient enough coming out of trade school. I even had people email me and say, I just got my EPA certification. I just finished trade school. I'm starting my own business. I mean, come on. You absolutely have no business starting your own business coming out of trade school. It's not going to happen. You've been misled. You've been fed a bag of rocks. I mean, that's ridiculous, okay? Anyways, I'm getting negative right now, so let's get back to the chat, see what I'm missing. Can I please do more live stream repairs? You know, it's really hard, the live stream repairs. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't, so... on a video a while back, you saw that a refrigerant dryer was super dirty. What do I think happened to a refrigerant dryer? Refrigerant dryers get dirty when people don't follow proper practices and or there's massive system failures. Compressors failed, burnouts, different things like that. So a system dryer, a filter dryer, is simply there to clean the system up and prevent that contamination from getting into the expansion valve, the evaporator, and or the compressor, okay? As much as possible, but it can only do so much. If you have catastrophic system failures, then yeah, then it plugs everything up and you have to put more dryers on the system to try to clean it back up properly. There's a whole side of the industry in properly cleaning systems after massive contaminations. That's an art in itself. Have I ever worked on water-cooled condensers? Anything strange about that? Yeah, I've worked on quite a few water-cooled condensers. I used to do a hospital service work for a hospital that had all water-cooled refrigeration equipment for their walk-ins and lots of water source heat pumps and different things like that. The key with water-cooled is proper preventative maintenance and proper water treatment, okay? Now, the particular hospital that I used to work for, all the water-cooled refrigeration equipment for the walk-ins and everything was in the basement level, and they had an open loop system, so they had a cooling tower outside, and then there was a lot of mud in the system because of that. They didn't have good treatment coming in, and then all the stuff would make its way down into the basement where the refrigeration equipment was, and they would just plug up stuff like crazy. It was so bad that the engineers at the hospital, I would get regular service calls where I would go out and they'd be like, yeah, the server room air conditioner is not working, or the walk-in cooler is not working. And I'd go over there, and you have to have strainers on your water-cooled systems, right? So there'd be a strainer there, and I'd open up the strainer to pull the screen, and there's no screen in there. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'd go down to engineering and be like, dude, the screen's missing out of the strainer. Oh, yeah, that thing plugs up like every week, so we just took the screen out. Come on. For real? I can't tell you how many times I was told, oh yeah, that strainer plugs up so much that we just took the screen out. Good grief. So then, don't get me wrong, I mean, it was great. I got to bill them for all kinds of time. I would spend 2 days, you know, turning a system on and off, flushing it out, cleaning it, putting proper strainer screens back in, you know, and yes, they had to clean their strainer screens, you know, every other week, basically. That's how dirty their system was. And that's because they had a open loop system, basically, with a evaporative cooling tower outside. And they weren't circulating glycol. They were circulating treated water, but it was basically pulling up all the dirt and crap from outside of the cooling tower and making it back into the system. And it was a mess. So proper system water or the fluid treatment and proper preventative maintenance is the biggest thing. Water-cooled systems are actually super efficient, and if they're maintained and set up properly, they'll last for years and years to come. If you can, I would highly suggest, and unfortunately this is becoming a dying type of equipment, but shell and tube condensers are the best with water-cooled equipment. Unfortunately, because of efficiency and space limitations and everything, everybody is going to coaxial condensers, and those basically are it looks like a giant tube and like a circular round little stack of them, and that's your condenser. Those things are so difficult to clean. The reason why I like shell and tube condensers on the old school systems is because you could punch the tubes. You basically pull the end bells off of the condenser. This was way before I did YouTube, so it'd be really cool if I had videos of this, but you pull the end bells off the condenser and you basically would run a brush through there. I never had any of the fancy mechanical equipment, good ways or anything like that, but I would just run brushes. I'd actually go get a a special cleaning brush, and you're not supposed to do this, but what I would do is put it on my drill and go super slow. Or you can get nylon brushes too and put them on your drill and just run them through the tubes. And if you did it regularly, you can clean them. I actually used to set up for the coaxial units. What I used to do is I had this giant Rubbermaid container, a big heavy duty Rubbermaid container, and I went and bought a submersible sump pump, a large submersible sump pump. And I basically made a pump system. With the submersible sump pump, I ran basically PVC pipe with clean outs and different things like that. And we would take a bunch of 50-foot hoses and we'd set up the pump system, right? It was a flush system because you could buy these too, but I just made my own. Made a flush system, and you could basically shut off the incoming water, right, from the tower, and you could just hook up to the condenser that needed to be cleaned, and you could just recirculate the water. And then you would put like Rid Lime in there and just let it run for an hour or something like that and flush the system out, and then we would have it drain and everything. So man, I wish I had videos because that was fun. I really liked doing that. It was a lot of like very meticulous work because you were working in a hospital and you had to make sure everything was clean, clean everything. It was just a whole different way of working. But water cooled is a lot of fun to work on. It's hard work though, because I mean, you got to do a lot of things right. You really got to get in there. You got to have some big wrenches too when you're pulling strainers and ball valves and different things like that. But anyways, that's a whole thing. All right. Ernesto asked me a question about UV lights and it just disappeared. I don't know where it went. Let me see if I can find it again. Ernesto, I missed the question, but I saw UV lights, and I think you were asking me, do I think UV lights will kill COVID or something like that or become more popular? I'm just going to kind of go on my little rant about this. So UV lights, I know that they are proven to kill things. The trick with UV lights, to my understanding, is getting the fluid to slow down enough to be sanitized and cleansed properly. And when I say fluid, I mean air, right? Because majority of the time we're going to be using air, which is a fluid. It's going to slow down. You got to slow down the air enough to be exposed properly to the UV light to sanitize the air properly. Okay. That's why a lot of the manufacturers of the residential style UV lights, they want you to put them facing the evaporator coil to try to kill bacteria. Sean Schwab, thank you so very much for that super chat. Merry Christmas, bud. That was awesome. I really, really appreciate that, okay? Please, guys, hit the thumbs up button like Sean had asked. That'd be really cool if you could. So that's the big trick that I've read about with UV lights is you have to make sure that they're big enough to properly clean and sanitize or kill things in the air. So really, I mean, my research for a particular customer that wanted UV lights was you would have to do some serious bank systems of UV lights to properly clean the air in a system that was moving even 5,000 CFMs of air. I mean, because the odds are that 5,000 CFMs of air is not always going to hit that UV light. So you'd have to have a bank of it, to make sure that majority of the air would actually make it to that and be properly sanitized. So again, sorry if I missed your question, Ernesto. Hopefully I answered that. Just Rush, bipolar ionization. I also installed a bunch of bipolar ionizers. I got to be honest with you guys. I still don't understand the voodoo magic behind bipolar ionizers, but I've read some interesting studies. There was a third-party study, I don't know, out of some country that I read in one of the Indoor Comfort magazine or something like that, talking about bipolar ionization, but there's so much voodoo magic in that I just don't understand it. So many big words. I'm a dumb knuckle buster, right? Air filter gets dirty. That means it's cleaning the air. I can see it. When it comes to a bipolar ionizer, it's hard for me to understand that magic that's happening there. The one thing I will say is I have a bunch of those iWave bipolar ionizers because I installed a bunch of them. And when I was talking to our buddy Big Clive on the HVAC Overtime channel, he was saying that they have to produce some sort of ozone. And I was like, well, if you read the installation instructions for the bipolar ionizers made by GPS Global Plasma Solutions and then remarketed by New Calgon, if you read their information, it says it doesn't create ozone. But what's interesting is even on the iWaves, you can smell what smells to be like a bleach-like substance I've been told that that's ozone. So it's really interesting that they say it doesn't create ozone, but you can still smell that bleach-like smell across the little ionizer brushes or whatever. So I don't know. I don't know what I believe in any of this. I'm still standing firm from day one. I believe clean, fresh air is going to be a big part of this. I think that if people start, or restaurants and businesses and everything like that, start letting us bring in fresh, clean air into the building. So that means bigger air conditioning systems, because we're going to have to bring in more outside air that's going to have to be tempered and conditioned, right? In the Midwest and back east, it's super cold right now, so we can't be bringing in a bunch of outside air without heating it up first. Same thing out here in Southern California. In the summertime, we can't be bringing in 100% outside air because it's 110, 120 degrees outside. So I feel like we'd be much better off bringing in fresh air, but our energy costs are going to go up. And unfortunately, nobody wants to spend more energy. And in fact, they're making all kinds of legislation to make sure that people are dropping their energy costs and all that crap. So I'm a firm believer in fresh, clean outside air, proper air filters, cleaning things properly, that kind of thing. That's my method of doing that. But out of curiosity, guys, I did install one of those iWaves in my house just because I wanted to see if I noticed any difference. I honestly don't notice a difference, but will I ever notice it? I don't know. I will say that I also installed an iWave in my garage because we have cats and it smells like cat piss out there all the time and it pisses me off. So we have a ceiling fan running 24/7, moving a lot of air in my garage. And so I put the iWave underneath the ceiling fan that's constantly running, and it still smells like cat piss in my garage. So I don't know. Jay, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. That is awesome. So what are my thoughts, if any, on the Nest or Ecobee thermostats? Hey, I think that they're great for the people that want to use them. Okay. Nest and Ecobee, they're designer thermostats. They're really pretty looking. They meet the customer's need if they want it. But I have heard, especially with the early generations, with a lot of the Nest thermostats and stuff, that there was some issues. Okay. So, I don't install them very often. I think they look pretty, but it's just, I don't have a huge opinion on it. I mean, they got warranties, so it's up to you where you want to go with that. I personally am thinking about getting, what's the new thing from Emerson that Jim Bergman's working with? Emerson has a thermostat. I can't think of it right now. I'll think of it in a minute. It's not Ecobee, I don't think. I don't know. But I was thinking about getting that one because it integrates with Measure Quick and you can get real-time data on your system and stuff like that. That's something that I'm interested in. So let's see what we got on here. Do I think UV lights will be mandatory for big corporate restaurants? Also, your old company that took care of restaurants used to have 40 techs and now has 13 techs. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying, Ernesto. So yeah, I think that UV lights are going to be mandatory? I don't think they're going to be mandatory, but I think that restaurants, there's going to be some sort of implementation. I really, really think that they're going to require fresh air. I think that they're going to do that. The problem with UV lights and bipolar ionizers and all those things is you just don't know if they're safe or not. So, UV lights, the original UV light, that can be harmful. So I don't know. That's an interesting one. So you're saying the original, the company that took care of restaurants that used to have 40 techs now only has 13 techs. I believe it. Restaurants are dying right now, guys. I'm dead slow right now. I'm barely inching along right now with the restaurant industry. I do a lot of commercial restaurant work, and that's the only thing saving my butt right now is because they're still spending money, but they're even cutting back. So I believe that companies are cutting back for sure. It's definitely a scary time to be in the restaurant industry for sure. Can I please explain what does inverter mean and what is it for? Well, an inverter, I'm not a genius when it comes to everything, but an inverter driven compressor, what it's going to do is basically it has an inverter that's going to slow it down and speed it up in different methods. So it's a computer controlled compressor or motor that can be controlled, slowed down and speed up depending on demand and load. So inverter compressors do great in mini split systems and high efficiency systems because depending on the demand, they can slow down and speed up to either make the coil colder or warmer, to try to dehumidify or humidify. I mean, you could do all kinds of things with inverter driven. So it's all about energy efficiency and being able to slow down and speed up the motors and compressors computer or controlled by a computer essentially. So there may be some more of a technical answer to that, but essentially it's just a way to be able to slow things down and speed it up based off of computer algorithms and stuff. Someone said they like the Honeywell 9000. I have a Honeywell 9000 in my house. That's what I've had for a very long time. I can control it with my phone. It's nice and pretty. I've just been thinking about changing over to something different. So, let me see what else. Who holds my camera if I need two hands? Is it one of my techs? Every once in a blue moon, I have one of my techs hold my camera, but it's very rare. Most of the time, I'm using a tripod. Let me see what else. What would be a good entry-level thermal imaging camera? Need full picture, not a laser sensor. I don't know about the laser sensor, but entry-level, just the FLIR One Pro. Get the FLIR One Pro, whether it be for Android or Apple. You can do the most with that. That's what I use in my videos all the time. If you want a standalone camera, there's a FLIR C5 is the new one, and the Seek Shot Pro. So between, because I actually never made the video, but I've been testing out all three of those thermal cameras. Actually, the FLIR C3, the FLIR One Pro, and the Seek Shot Pro. So the FLIR One Pro is my favorite. The Seek Shot Pro is my second favorite, and the FLIR C3 was my third. The FLIR C3 and the Seek Shot Pro are standalone cameras. They don't do very good audio and video, if any. Actually, I don't think either of them does audio. So if you're going to be recording stuff or need to have audio narration, you have to go with the FLIR One Pro. Let me see what else we got in here. Are they inverter compressors on refrigeration currently? We're wondering why you haven't seen any of that. Yeah, there's inverter compressors on refrigeration. But I don't deal with any of that stuff, but there definitely is. Yeah. The bigger stuff, not on the small stuff. Have I worked on water chillers, worked in a data center that has 5 and was amazed by them? No, I don't do any chiller work. I've done just water cooled, like water source heat pumps and stuff like that, but I don't do any chiller work. What is my radar work on a package unit? I don't understand that question, Kevin. Can you rephrase that one? I would say it again. Do a feature with Big Clive. He knows a lot about ionizers. Yeah, actually, we've done videos with Big Clive. So, yeah, we definitely have. We've had him on the Overtime show a couple times now. Do I got any YouTube groupies? I don't think I have any YouTube groupies. No. But I've gotten some weird packages in the mail. That was kind of scary. I'll tell you, you know, I could say this. So very early on, before I even had any subscribers, maybe like 10,000 subscribers or something, I was helping someone out on a military base, and this is a funny story after the fact. So if you're watching, bud, thank you very much. But this ended up being a good story, but it scared me. So I was helping out a dude. He was on a military base in Afghanistan, and he was working on a walk-in. No, he was working on a walk-in that he was having a hard time with. And I kind of guided him, answered a few questions for him, and he ended up fixing it. And in the end, he was like, hey, I want to send you something and a thank you. And I said, no need to send me anything. Don't worry about it. I really appreciate being able to help you. It was an honor. Anyways, so long story short, is giant package of freaking fancy chocolates from Hawaii. All the crap you get in the airport, the like macadamia nut chocolates. It was this huge box of chocolates and coffees and all this crap shows up at my house. And I'm like, what the hell? How did this person get my address? You know? So I emailed the guy back and I'm like, hey, thanks so much for the chocolates, dude. But how did you get my address? This freaked me out. And, so he had said he was busy, and he goes, I'll have to talk to you later about it. He goes, but you wouldn't believe what my day job is. And I was like, okay. So then a couple of days later, he gets back with me because, again, he's on a military base. Long story short, he's an FBI agent, and he's a reservist. And so I felt a little bit better that he got my address and sent me a package to my house, but it still kind of scared me. So yeah, I've gotten a few packages in the mail. That's why I have a P.O. box now. It's really easy to find my P.O. box because I prefer people not send me packages to my house because that's kind of creepy. But yeah, nothing really crazy has ever happened from YouTube. Yeah, nothing really. All right. I'm going to get old figuring out all the problems. Yeah. Let me see what else. Do walk-in evaporator motors just go bad from age, or electrical issue causes the motor go bad? Walk-in evaporator motors, it just depends. I mean, depending on the type of motor, they can have bearing failure because of how cold it gets in there. There could be a bunch of different stuff. So usually it's ambient environment issues. I'm going to get to a couple questions that I have on my list to try to talk. So one of the questions I get all the time is, do I try to educate my customers when I find these issues? Like in my recent video, I had a trash can that I thought, my best guess was that someone put the trash can in front of the condenser and tripped the head pressure control. So do I educate my customers on where not to put the trash cans? Yes, I do. But you will learn when you work in chain restaurants, in restaurants in general, it only goes so far. Most of the time, they repeat the problems over and over again. I got to be honest with you. We're super slow right now. Do you know why we're super slow? Is because the restaurant is not breaking their equipment right now. Majority of the time, when the restaurants were slamming, they had a full kitchen staff, they were keeping me busy because they were abusing the equipment. The equipment usually doesn't fail on its own. It's usually people shorting temperature controllers or motors out because they're trying to wash the floors by using buckets of water, and they're splashing it all over the region, and they short the temperatures. Our number one thing that kept us busy was the kitchen staff abusing the equipment. And right now, with the restaurants being shut down the way that they are and only open to limited service, there's not very much kitchen staff, so they're not breaking things. So we're dead slow because they're not abusing stuff. So do I educate the customers? Yes, I try and educate them on how to, you know, prevent the problems that they are calling me on. But at the same time, it only goes so far, because especially when they're busy, they can't keep up with everything. They can't micromanage the entire restaurant, and the kitchen staff beats the crap out of the equipment. So that's what keeps us busy. All right. How long is a typical service call? That's a common question I get. It really depends. Every service call is different. I'd say on average, though, we typically don't have a service call less than an hour and a half, including drive time. And we typically, I would say, if I had to look at all my invoices for the past year, I'd say my average service call is probably 4.5 to 6 hours, probably. What about my other service techs? What is their average time? I would probably say 2.5 to 4 hours, because they certainly don't spend as much time as I'd like them to going through the equipment like I like to go through it. So, let me see. Something that I did want to cover, and I wanted to point this out, just reading in the comments on YouTube. You know something, guys? These videos that I do and that I make actually hold me accountable, because there is times, guys, that I am just like everybody else, and I want to half-ass a service call. I'm tired at the end of the day. You know, I'm on a service call where it seems like, you know what, it's probably no big deal. You know, I just change the motor and move on, you know, and I don't want to go through the equipment. But oftentimes in the back of my head, even if I'm not filming the call, I think, you know, no, I got to do this. Especially when I'm filming it, it really pushes me to try to be better service technician. So I understand and know that everybody goes through this, and everybody gets exhausted, and everybody wants to half-ass a service call more often than not, myself included. But these videos hold me accountable, because I'm filming, and it's like, well, if I film this much and I don't show myself doing that extra step that I really should do that I don't want to do, then am I really going to show a big picture diagnosis? So guys, I am human just like everybody else, and I want to half-ass service calls just as much as the next guy. But it's getting past that urge to take shortcuts, okay? We all do it, and just getting past that urge and knowing that when you walk away, you feel very comfortable that you didn't take any shortcuts. That's the best feeling. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. Would I rather work on a package unit or a split unit? Kevin Schmidt. I mean, package units are easier. So, you know, the laziness inside me wants to work on a package unit because it's all in one place. Split systems, you know, depending on how big it is, can sometimes be a little bit more difficult to service, you know, and more of a headache. But, you know, either way, it's the same concepts. It's just, you know, a little bit harder to get to certain sections of a split system. So every time you turn on your AC unit and the compressor makes a very bad sound like a generator, and on heat mode, the unit defrosts every 3 hours and 15 degrees. Is that bad? It's hard to say, but I don't know. From what you're telling me, there's not enough information for me to be able to diagnose anything. Let me see what else we got. Large facility, many areas shut down. Because I think you're talking. Let me see what else we got in here. If they went through equipment like I did, they wouldn't be working for me anymore. They would have their own business going. You know, there's some truth in that, David. You know, I am always trying to get my service techs to be more thorough when it comes to everything, paperwork, you know, general service calls and different things like that. And there is some truth in that if people were methodical and detailed as I am in my service calls and stuff, that maybe, you know, they would want to open their own service company. But I mean, I can honestly tell you today, right now, that given the chance to start all over right now, tomorrow, I would not open my own service company knowing what I know now. because the stress, the headaches, and the anxiety from running a business sends you through the roof. And there's so many days, probably lately, more days than not, that I wish I could just go work for someone and turn off work at the end of the day. So I think that there's a good amount of people that probably still wouldn't want to work for someone because they're probably logical. Wouldn't want to work for themselves because they're probably logical people and know the stresses that come into that. So a lot of people ask me, is it worth starting a business? I mean, yes, it is. It's good money and stuff, but you just need to be prepared for the stress side of it too. And, if you're a person like me that likes to fix things and isn't about sales, it's going to be a stressful life running a business for sure. So do me a favor, guys, smash the thumbs up button. It really does help the stream. We've got 389 viewers in here and 227 likes. So please smash that thumbs up button. It'll really help the stream, guys. Let me see what else we got in this chat right now. I am not the X-Ray Bravo. He says I am the best tech. I am not the best tech, X-Ray Bravo. You have to understand something. My videos are showing everybody my mistakes. I am just like every other service technician. I just happen to have a platform, and I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've tried to learn from those mistakes. So, there's certainly many other techs better than I that just haven't picked up a camera yet. So, let me see what else. There's a lot of stuff going on in here. How do I make your resume stand out for entry level? Just be honest, be upfront, and try to knock on the door and see if you can hand deliver your resume in one way or the other. That's going to be your best bet, because making your resume stand out as a piece of paper for a new tech that just got out of school, you're going to look just like every other tech. So a phone call, if they can't let you go to the door, a phone call just saying, hey, you know what, I'm willing to do whatever. Can I do a ride along with you? I'd be willing, if it's legal in your state, I'd be willing to ride with you for a day or two just so you can see my work ethic and I can see the business that you operate. That'd be a good way, if you can, to make yourself different from other techs. But in California, it's getting hard to do that. A walk-in freezer gets down to temp, but 2 days later it gets high and then drops. You check the defrost termination and it is works even though you replace that and the defrost clock. There's so much there, bud. There's so many variables. What do you mean by high? Is it icing up? Does it have the right refrigerant charge? Is the door being left open? Are the hinges bad? There's so many variables in there. Is the temp control going bad? It's too hard to diagnose without knowing all that pertinent information. So, do I see refrigeration getting smarter with more electronics or staying dumb? No, refrigeration's definitely getting smarter. The big boy manufacturers, Colpack, Russell, Heatcraft, main manufacturers are all going to smart, evaporators and different things like that. Smart defrost, inverter-driven compressors. It's definitely getting more technological. We have more advancements in our industry in the last 10 years than we've had in the last 100 years. I mean, it's crazy. So, all right, let's see what else. What company would I want to work for? Linux, since that's my favorite units once my dad retires? No. No. I mean, I joke and say that I'd want to work for another company, but my wife, I tell that to my wife, and my wife says, do you really think you're going to be able to work for someone? No. I'll probably keep doing it for myself, but I don't know. I don't know that I could work for a corporate company. I mean, there's good things about a corporate company, but then there's bad things. So, all right. Let me see what else. I did a video on a Hot Logic mini food cooker for lunch about a year ago. Did I end up using it? Yeah, I've used it a bunch. I haven't used it recently, but yeah, I bought a Hot Logic mini little cooker, and I probably used it probably 10 times or something like that. I think it's sitting on top of my fridge. I got burnt out on it or something. I don't know. But it's a cool little device for cooking lunch. You can have a hot lunch. You basically put raw chicken in it with some vegetables, some oil, some whatever seasoning, and leave it cooking all day long. The important thing about the Hot Logic Mini is you have to understand that you have to have a constant power source. So if you're going to have it plugged in an inverter in your van, usually the inverter turns off when you leave the van, unless you have it wired differently. So you have to have it constantly hooked up. You can also plug them into 12-volt outlets and things like that too, or take it up onto the roof. But it's a cool little method of cooking food for sure. So, all right, I'm going to get to my list right here. So I wanted to reiterate something that I said in my recent, or I showed in my recent video, and some people asked me questions about it. When you're spraying coil cleaners, whether it be foaming or non-foaming, my method of doing condenser coil cleaning or evaporator coil cleaning is to wet the evaporator first, okay? And my logic, and this is my knuckle busting logic, I don't know if this makes sense, is to wet the coil so that we have a smooth surface for the coil cleaner to penetrate and or flow, okay? So I wet the coil first, blow off any major debris, and then I start with the coil cleaner from the bottom up, working your way up. So that way the coil cleaner has time to penetrate through. Okay, if you start at the top, then what happens is it starts to foam out and drip down, and then you can't get a good penetration of the coil cleaner once you get to that spot. So I start from the bottom up, really get it inside the coil, especially with the foaming stuff, all the way up. Then by the time you get to the top, then I'll rinse from the top down and just let everything drain down into it. So, and I believe Refrigeration Technologies actually recommends spraying the coil cleaner from the bottom up and letting it do its magic. By the time you get to the top, you know, let it sit for a minute, then rinse it all down. So, also on my list right here, I wanted to reiterate the fact about the pan chillers, because I had a video working on a cold rail unit, and I talked about in that how important it was for all the pans to be 100% sealed when you're working on those cold rail units. So it's usually like a well, like in my video. Most of the time they don't have fan motors. You got to make sure the kitchen staff has to have the pans in there 100% of the way. If there's any gaps in the pans, that box is not going to work right on that cold rail, okay? Another thing to understand is every manufacturer out there of cold rails for food in the top, none of those are meant to bring product temperature down, okay? Kitchen staff and restaurants need to be educated on the fact that those reach-ins are not ever, even the base sections, they're not designed to bring temperatures down. They're designed to maintain temperatures, and only for a certain amount of time. Okay, so when it comes to the cold rails, if you actually read the manufacturer's instructions, they actually tell you for most of them that they want you to rotate the food, because the cold rail can only do its magic for so long, and they actually want you to rotate it, which creates some food issues. Most restaurants won't ever rotate their food. That also leads me into another thing that majority of the manufacturers, and I think I covered this about ice machines a couple weeks ago, you have to remember that these manufacturers are there to sell refrigerators, guys. And they usually have marketing departments that handle the marketing materials, and they're just trying to entice the customer to buy their refrigerator. So they will oftentimes embellish and or leave out a lot of the information about proper maintenance for that equipment, okay? So if you go to a person that just bought a brand new Delfield refrigerator and they don't realize that they have to pull the food out of the top cold rail every night and put it somewhere else because the top cold rail needs to defrost. See, most customers don't know that. They think that they're just going to leave that food up there all the time and they don't have to rotate it out. Well, what happens on those cold rails is if they don't defrost at nighttime, eventually the ice will build up behind the walls and it'll start to insulate that box, and or the ice will build up on the exposed wall right there and it'll get so thick that it starts to insulate it and your product temperatures go up, okay? So there's so much information out there that the manufacturers don't tell the customer, and we as contractors and business technicians, whatever, have to educate them about proper defrost on the cold rails, about rotating the food like they're supposed to do, about having the pans 100% sealed in the top. They can't be all bent up and jacked up to where the pans don't sit flush. They have to sit flush, and they can't have open gaps because they're using the wrong size pans. Those boxes are meant for certain pans only. And I find that a lot of the times the manufacturers, that information is not getting to the end user. And you know, we as technicians have to know. So you go to diagnose a problem with the cold rail, and then you find out that every one of the pans is all bent, and you know, you got to get that fixed first. Sealed, the pans all need to be fixed, straightened out, or replaced, flat sealed, and then you can diagnose further. So cold rails can be tricky. All right, let's get to the chat here and see what I'm missing. I should do a shop tour video. There's nothing fancy about my shop. There's nothing cool. Does phase rotation matter on a hermetic compressor and a semi-hermetic compressor? Well, I got to be careful. I say this all the time. A scroll compressor is technically a hermetic compressor, so you got to be careful about that. But a scroll compressor, the phase rotation definitely matters. On a reciprocating compressor, no, the phase rotation does not matter because it's piston driven, and you typically have 2 pistons or 1 piston, okay? But if it has 2 pistons, it doesn't matter if this piston goes up first or this piston. They both pump like this, right? So a reciprocating compressor is not it doesn't matter. Now, on semi-hermetic reciprocating compressors, no, you don't need to worry about phase rotation. It doesn't matter which way it pumps. Once you get into the bigger compressors, it does start to matter, like screw compressors and different things like that, definitely. But on a reciprocating compressor, no. But on a scroll, it definitely matters the phase rotation. All right. What Viper cleaner would I use for a newer residential system? The Viper HD cleaner and or the yellow Venom pack. You can get them from TrueTechTools.com, and if you go there, use my offer code BIGPICTURE to save 8% on your order. But yeah, the Viper HD or the yellow Venom pack. Those are the most non-corrosive cleaners that they make. Essentially, it's just a great mixture of soap. It's not going to hurt any metal surfaces. It can be used on microchannel and or copper tube and aluminum fins. So, damn nose is starting to itch. All right. Have I come across any systems with HFOs really recently? I don't think so, but I got to remember which one's an HC. I work on hydrocarbons a lot. I can't remember which ones are HFOs. Which refrigerants are HFOs? I always get I think I work with the refrigerants that I work with are I always mix this stuff up. I work on 404, 410A, 448A, 134A, R290, which is a hydrocarbon, R22. I think those are the refrigerants I work with. And then I have some older I still have some CFC refrigerants out there. I still have some R12 floating around too. So thank you very much for that super chat I see coming through right now. That's awesome. Mark, thank you, bud. That's really, really cool. All right. Let me see what else we got in here. I already covered that one. So in my recent video too, there was a great point when I worked on the exhaust fan. I had to change the motor on the exhaust fan, and I put the whole thing back together and then found out it was going in the wrong direction. So I don't work on single phase exhaust fans very often. And I forgot that I needed to check rotation before I put it all together. So that was a 208 single phase system. I'm so used to working on 3-phase that I put the motors in all day long and then we'll correct the rotation at the power switch. So yeah, I certainly dropped the ball on that one and wasted 20 minutes of having to take the thing back apart and change the rotation. So let me see what else we got. Would it be smart in a fire alarm situation to use the VFD to reverse the blower in a package unit and open the economizer? No, because reversing the blower doesn't change the airflow. All it does is reduce the amount of air. Because the blowers typically are a curved blade, spinning it backwards doesn't make the airflow backwards. It just makes it improperly flow forward, essentially. So yeah, no, because the blade is pitched in a certain way that it's not going to make a difference. Thank you very much for that super chat. That is awesome. I really, really appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you too. I should sell monthly subscription and release detailed videos to techs that want to learn from them. David May. That sounds like a lot of work. It's hard enough to keep up with the limited amount of time that I give to these videos as it is. I'm a super busy person, so it's hard. Guys, I want to point this out too to my buddies Rich and Ike. I said this in the beginning for those that just came in. They made me and sent me this plaque that says HVACR videos. It's stainless steel. I haven't pulled the laser paper off of it yet, but it's for my 100,000 subscribers. This is a really cool plaque that they made me. So this is really cool. I'll definitely put this up somewhere behind me or something like that and light it up with some lights and stuff. So you'll see that in the next couple live streams. But Rich and Ike, thank you very much for that. Laska, thank you so very much for that super chat, bud. What's cooler, people who like the streams or Absolute Zero? Ooh, if you want to get technical, Absolute Zero is cooler than that. But people that like the stream, they are pretty darn close. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it, okay? All right, do I get a lot of failed 1609 or any mechanical thermostats on a walk-in freezer? A a lot of failed 1609s. I can't remember which one the 1609 is. The most common temperature controllers that we use here are the A19, the Penn Johnson control ones, and then for a mechanical. And then after that, it's going to be like a Ronco ETC digital controller or a Key-to-Therm temp plus defrost controller, or the A419 Johnson Penn digital temp control. So we don't use that one that you mentioned. After 40 years, you have replaced more three-phase compressors because of incorrect rewiring. That's definitely true. Yeah, people don't know how to do that. Yeah, happy holidays and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody that's in here. Keep in mind, guys, I've said this in the beginning. I'll say it again. This Thursday, I have a very special video. It's not a normal repair video, so pay attention to the channel on Thursday, Christmas Eve. It's going to be released in the morning. It doesn't matter if you watch it right away, okay? Some people are going to be extremely happy after that video. Again, I kind of covered it a little bit, and I'm teasing it. There'll be a teaser clip that comes out on social media this week, but gosh, I wish I could tell you guys, but I'm biting my tongue right now to not spill the beans. But I got this really cool idea, and it's a really, really cool idea. So Thursday, my video is going to be a non-traditional video. It'll be released, and it's really, really interesting. Some people are going to be very happy. So just that's the most I can give on that. Let me see what else we got. Let me see. Curious HVAC guy will help me monetizing my facial hair growth. Yeah, Bill. Yeah, Bill. I strive to be like Bill. I asked my wife if I had a beard like Bill, if she would be cool with that, and she's like, hell no. She barely liked this, but she's starting to like this now. So, all right. That one's there. So let me get to the chat right now and look at what's going on in here. So, HFOs at school wanted to see if it's currently used much in the... Oh, okay, I see your question. What are the pros and cons for a student graduating in May like you want to look forward in the HVAC? Okay, so what do you have to look forward to in the HVAC industry coming up? Well, COVID is definitely putting a damper on everything, but things to look forward in the industry, just know that we need technicians in the industry right now. You know, you're gonna, depending on your market and what area you're going into, the best advice I can give to a new person getting into the trade right now is simply keep your mouth shut, keep your ears open, keep your eyes open, and know when to ask questions. That's the best advice I can give to anybody, okay? So I say this all the time. I'll say it again. JD, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. You guys in these super chats, you guys are awesome. Thank you so very much. This is amazing, okay? Thank you, guys. From the bottom of my heart, thank you, thank you. So for a new tech getting into the industry, I told you, just keep your mouth shut, keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. You have to know when to ask questions, okay? When you're at work, take as many pictures as possible when you're allowed to. Don't take pictures when you're not supposed to, okay? Especially if you're working in certain jobs where you're not allowed to take pictures. But take pictures of models and serial numbers and of equipment that you don't understand it. Go home and research that equipment. Come back the next day when it's appropriate and ask questions about that equipment, okay? Listen like a sponge to the person that you're working with. Absorb everything that they're telling you, okay? And understand when it's right to ask questions, because sometimes when you're working with someone, you got to get stuff done. They're working. They can only train you so much because they got to pay attention to what they're doing too. So you got to let them figure out and diagnose and just ask the questions appropriately when they're able to answer them, okay? So that's the best advice I can give to anybody new in the industry. Was there a walk-in service call that the problem was a door left open? Oh, I've had that so many times. That is a ridiculously high failure rate on walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers, is doors being left open. That is a very common issue. Causes freeze-up problems in walk-in coolers and walk-in freezers. Freeze-up problems lead to broken fan blades, bad fan motors, refrigerant leaks, all kinds of things like that. So, like I said earlier, with the restaurants being slow right now, my service calls have drastically dropped because the customers are not abusing their equipment. When it comes to walk-in coolers, walk-in freezers, air conditioners, anything, fryers, any of that stuff, the more common failure rates are because proper or improper use of the equipment, okay? Propping doors open, leaving doors open, putting crap in the fryer that doesn't belong in it, doing that kind of stuff. So running the fryer without oil in it, doing silly stuff like that. I am not dressing like an elf on Christmas Eve. Sorry about that. Do I like skeletons or are they too scary? Just a quick question. That one made me laugh. I have no opinion on skeletons whatsoever. I guess I like them. Was there, I already answered that question. So, am I an authorized Charleston warranty service provider? You have not seen me service one. Yeah, the Charlestons just aren't very common. Okay, so when it comes to authorized service providers, in the commercial side, almost anybody can do commercial warranty work. There's only a few manufacturers that limit it to authorized service providers. So I'm not like an official ASA or ASP or whatever you want to call it, but I do warranty work for Charleston. Sure, I have companies, restaurant chains that have Charleston equipment, and I'll do their warranty work. I mean, I can do it. So I'm a service provider for them. Charleston's not as popular right now. Delfield's like the #1 brand out there in the market that I'm working in. So Charleston used to be very popular. Okay, I already answered that one. But let me see what else we got going on in here. Have I thought about adding gas stations or other businesses other than restaurants? Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, sometimes I think about, I have one gas station that I service. I definitely need to diversify the stuff that I'm working in, but it's also, I'm limited with the workforce that I have, and by taking on more work, it creates a problem. But I can definitely maybe drop one of my restaurant chains and try to pick up some more gas station work or something like that. That'd be kind of cool. Definitely. All right. What does a test and reset station do? On a smoke detector, a test and reset station, for the most part, is a way for someone, be the fire marshal, a service technician, or a manager, to test the system, the fire alarm, so you can put it into a test situation where it sets it off, and then you can also reset it from a remote place. So back on my wall right here, I have a smoke detector, and this little white box that my finger is pointing to right now is a test and reset station. So I could have that ran all the way at the other end of my house, and I could trigger that smoke detector to go into a fire condition, and then I could also reset it from wherever. So a test and reset station will typically install the smoke detector in the ductwork or in a package unit on the roof, and you'll have the test and reset station by the fire alarm panel or in an office downstairs, so someone can test and reset the station from a remote location. So thank you very much for that super chat, bud. That was really cool. Why do I let my customers purchase their own equipment? Jim D. So in the chain restaurant work, you kind of don't have a choice. You have to kind of take some and give some. In the chain restaurant work, they provide me with work majority of the year long. When I deal with small mom and pops, they certainly don't purchase their own equipment. But with the big chain restaurants, it's just what you have to deal with. You got to treat it like this, even though it's kind of frustrating. The chain restaurants treat you like you should be privileged to be able to do their work. Like that's how and so you take so much of it because it keeps you busy and employed, but at the same time, you have to know when to say stop. So for instance, I don't let them walk all over me. I've had the big chain restaurants come to me and say, hey, we want to start buying our own parts. And I say, no, you're not buying your own parts. That's the last thing I have to sell you. You can buy your own equipment, sure, and I'll install it, but I'm not letting you buy your own parts because I don't make enough money. So in order for me to start letting them buy their own parts, I would have to shoot my labor rates up so high to cover what I would make on a markup and my labor. So yeah, just dealing with chain restaurants, that's just something you got to deal with. They buy their own large equipment. So let me see what else. The older smoke detectors use a magnet and a reset button. They still have a magnet and a reset button on the smoke detector. It's just you have a test and reset station remote downstairs. So each one of those smoke detectors has a magnet and a reset button on it, but it also has a test and reset station too. Chris Norris, thank you so very much for that super chat, man. Merry Christmas, bud. Yeah, no, I can't adopt anybody else. My own kids keep me busy enough. They cost me enough money too. Let's see, you're upgrading an 18-year-old permanent refrigerated counter with 3 doors and a cold rail pan chiller. If pan chiller pressure tests okay, would I keep it or cut it out and install a drop-in? If you're replacing... Oh, you're replacing the equipment. So I'm assuming you're replacing just the coils and stuff and you want to keep the pan chiller? I mean, man, if you could get to a Hvacr Blue drop-in pan chiller, you'd be pretty happy camper with the temperatures that they provide. So... I mean, I don't know if it's feasibly possible financially for you to look into a Hvacr Blue, but the Hvacr Blue pan chillers are like the best out there. So I would, if I could, of course, push them to change the pan chiller. Again, okay, I already answered that one. All right, well, I think that it is about time that I wrap this one up, guys. Again, thank you guys so very much for the super chats. They have been amazing. I really, really appreciate it. The continued support that you guys have watching the videos. Do me a favor, if you guys are interested in purchasing any merch, go check out my website, hvacrvideos.com. All kinds of merch on there. And I don't know if people know, I keep saying this too, I have women's size shirts on my website too. So we have my new flag shirt. We have it in the women's sizes from small to extra large too. And it's like a V-neck women's cut. So keep that in mind. Again, thank you guys so very much. And pay attention for my video on Thursday, December 24th. That's going to be a really cool one coming up. Let me go ahead and transition this out to that. And I'm going to transition to the outro music, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Merry Christmas. We'll see you. The next live stream will be the Monday after Christmas. So let's go ahead and wrap this one up.